This is the Straight to Video podcast. This is a weird angle. I know that. I admit that, but I'm trying something different. Just feel like doing something different today. And I like this angle today. And we talk about MMA, boxing. I got opinions. When I do like a breakdown for fights, that's on my Spotify or Apple podcast. That's the As Raw podcast. The Straight to Video podcast, more just like rumors or just opinions on news happening in boxing and MMA. With a lot of crazy stuff happening, Tyson Fury, that thing's still going on. Tyson Fury's taking pictures with people like in Vegas and stuff like that. He just does not give a damn. And I feel like now it just feels like every guy that's covering it for ESPN, for like the major ones, it's just kind of playing, what is that called? It's just kind of trying to play a damage, trying to like damage control it. That's what it feels like. So everyone that's saying like, oh, Tyson Fury's doing this crooked. I mean, he's not showing you anything else than other than it kind of looks like he's okay. And it kind of looks like he could have had this fight. And it kind of looks like maybe he wasn't ready. Now, I don't know what happened to camp. A lot of people claiming they know what happened in camp, that he was getting like destroyed in sparring and all that. And not that even that really matters, but I don't know what happened in camp. And I'm not going to assume I do, or I'm not going to speculate on things I don't know about. But what I do know is that that's not a good look, right? And he doesn't look sick. And I know I've had people have COVID and they come asymptomatic or anything like that. But he just doesn't, if he's able to go out, it looks like he's still able to train. It still looks like he's still, it's just a bad look, I guess. I guess if I had that, and maybe I wasn't all that sick, but I just didn't want to feel like chancing fighting because I don't know what the after effects were of it and I wanted some time. I don't think I would go out and take a bunch of pictures with people, but maybe he's just a guy who doesn't think like that, and maybe he just doesn't give a damn what anyone thinks. And that could be it, right? That could be it. He just does not give a damn what anyone thinks. But right now, all the reporters and everybody that seem like they're playing, cover up for him, it's not a good look. And someone's just one of those guys just had to kind of call him on his BS. And it's BS at this point. Or at least it looks it. Jermell Charlo fighting this weekend. I'm a big fan of Jermell Charlo. I think he's like one of the best fighters in the world right now. He's definitely my top 10 pound for pound. After he wins this, he'll probably be my top 5. Let me pull up my top 5 real quick. I want to see what my pound for pound is looking like. I was looking at fights of the year for boxing this year, and it's not that great, honestly. Fights of the year is all right. It was for MMA, fights of the year weren't that great. For the fights of the year right now, my number 1 is Estrada Chocolito. I think my number 2 is, I think Joe Smith Vaslov is a very underrated fight. In for third, I'm going to give it a tie to Ryan Garcia, Luke Campbell, and Tank Barrios. I really think that Ryan Garcia, Luke Campbell it happened early in the year, and it's kind of just got brushed under the rug. Maybe because they ended in such devastating fashion, or maybe people want to diminish it because they don't think much of Ryan Garcia or they don't think much of Luke Campbell. That was a great fight, and that it was star power, and it had a great ending. And I even have that as a candidate for KO of the year. I don't think Body Shots get enough credit for KO of the year. I don't know if a Body Shots even ever won KO of the year, but that one should be in the running for KO of the year. That was excellent. Then for KO of the year, my KO of the year so far is Oscar Valdez versus Berchelt. I also think when you do KO of the year, you have to keep in mind like the fight. You have to keep in mind the level of the fight or the level of the opponent, right? And you have to what it means. And there's a lot of knockouts of like people we don't know, or fights or shows that no one's watching. It kind of has to be a fight that people are watching, or a fight that means something. And Valdez Berchelt meant a lot. It's one of the biggest wins of the year, and that was one of the biggest knockouts of the year. So that has my number 1. Number 2 is Rosado versus Beck, which is like a comeback knockout because Rosado was getting beat down up until that point. And he saw Beck had a continuous same movement, and he landed a big shot that really revitalized Rosado's career with that KO. So it means a lot. It was a big upset, big comeback, and big win and big knockout. So that's why it's up there. So where I come for my pound for pound. So right now, my pound for pound, my number 1 is Canelo. Right, and So people don't have Canelo on there. They have him. Everybody has him in his top 3, but I just think Canelo is dominated from 154 all the way to 168 and has a very credible win. I know people try to put down that win of his Kovalev at 173, but Kovalev won in had just beat Anthony Yarde, who whatever you think of him, he beat him. Whether he struggled, he still won. He just got his win back against Alvarez. You know what I mean? Like, it wasn't like, oh, he's shot right now. It wasn't like that. He beat a credible champion. It's better than the Barrios win, than Tank's Barrio win. It is. The Kovalev was a legit world champion, a legit proven world champion. And Barrios is a guy that, while I think he was pretty good, and I think that was a good win, he has not proven to be like a top level of that weight class. He hasn't. I mean, number 2, Earl Spence. I think Earl Spence has fought basically anyone that he always fights tough 147. He's going to fight Manny Pacquiao, who to me is Manny Pacquiao is the current champion at 147. I have the world super champions which is basically my belt system. It's like who I recognize as a champ of that weight. I have that vacant right now because Pacquiao hasn't fought in forever, 2 years. So I'd say he was the champ. I stripped him of it, but I think him and Earl Spence, whoever wins that, is going to be the champ, official champ at welterweight. Terence Crawford, number 3. Terence Crawford is dominated 140. He's been effective at 147. He hasn't really got to fight anyone at 147, but there's a thing where it's like, okay, the resume, right? But it's like you can only fight who's available to you. And Terence Crawford beat everyone at 140 that was available to him. And at that point, the 140, when he beat it with Pistol. Okay, wait, let me let Alex in real quick. The same with Pistol, it's like, he beat Pistol. That was and like I said, the names they didn't hold up. Maybe not Pistol still, but some of the names they didn't hold up. I understand, but he still cleared out a weight class. He did. He cleared out a weight class. He cleared out a weight class, and he cleared out what was available to him. And that's all he could really do. You know what I mean? Like Lomachenko cleaned out a bunch of weight classes. Now, whether you respect the names or like they're not good anymore, it doesn't matter. He cleaned out the weight class, the best available at that time in that weight class. Lomachenko wants to fight the best at 135. He's gonna fight Teofimo again. He wants Gervonta Tank Davis. He can't get him right now. I understand that, but Tank's resume is not better than Loma's. It isn't, because Loma has cleared out weight classes. I still don't know what weight class that Tank was the absolute best in. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what weight class he cleaned out the whole damn weight class. I haven't seen that yet. Maybe 130. Like, that's his best claim to me, but who was his biggest win at 130? It was Santa Cruz, and Santa Cruz is a 126. So number 4, I have Tyson Fury. I don't think people are going to like that, but Tyson Fury has a win over Klitschko. He's got a win over Deontay Wilder. Those are 2 huge wins. Name me a person with better wins than that. Does Deontay Wilder have a win better than himself? I don't think so. Then I go Manny Pacquiao, who, it speaks for itself. Whether he's fought for a long time or not, he's coming back. I put him back in the rankings. He's number 5. And then I got Jermall Charlo, so he's just out number 5. He wins this fight. I'll put him ahead of Manny Pacquiao. I might put him ahead of Tyson Fury. Francisco Estrada's after that, and Teofimo Lopez, Josh Taylor, and Loma. Outside of it, Golovkin, Tank Davis. I know people want to put Tank in there. Tank would be in there if it was just based off skill, like an ability and what I think he could do if he fought guys. Yeah, I would think Tank's in there, but not resume. His resume's not there yet. Usyk, who hasn't really had a legit win. You know what I mean? Hasn't had a big win in a while. He did clear out cruiserweight, but he's gonna get a chance against. He's gonna get his chance against Anthony Joshua, and of course he wins that, then he's gonna enter the top 10. You got Jermall Charlo, who is stuck in no man's land, and I was thinking like he should go to 167. You know what I mean? But I can't blame him for not doing that. You should stay where you're at your best. And if he feels he's at his best at 160, he should stay at 160. Now, whether that costs him paydays, that's something else. But if he feels he's at his best at 160, he feels like no one could beat him at 160, why should he move from there? Hagler never did. Hopkins stood at middleweight forever. I mean, Hopkins moved around, but when he got to middleweight and he was effective there, he stood there. You got Inoue, You got Emmanuel Navarrete, Josh Warrington, Jose Ramirez, Arthur Beterbiev, who I believe is moving up to heavyweight, and Oscar Valdez. These are just guys that are I don't know. I don't know. I haven't really ranked the guys outside the top 10, but those are just names that I was considering. Yeah, fighter of the year. That's where it gets interesting. I was looking at fighter of the year so far, just like where we're at with it. Let me see how this looks real quick. Okay, we're good. Okay. Right now, my number one is Juan Estrada. Now he only has one win, but to me it's the biggest win so far of the year because he faced the toughest opponent at the biggest. He faced the toughest opponent, I would say, to solidify himself as the champ of that weight, and the opponent he fought is a Hall of Famer, right? Credible like that level of credibility. Number 2, I believe, is Oscar Valdez. But also my number 2, I say, could be Josh Taylor. I think that they're tied for second. Number 3, I have Canelo Alvarez. And I know that's tough to say because it's Billy Joe Saunders and Yildirim. And Yildirim really doesn't even count. So maybe not. Maybe I'll go Jamel Herring, then Canelo. And then my surprise was Mauricio Lara. Because he has a huge win. It's a huge upset, but it's a huge win. And he's going to get another fight with him. And if he knocks out Warrington again, he's going to have... I don't expect him to win Fight of the Year. I don't even think I put that ahead of Estrada, but he's in there. He's in the mentions for it. He's definitely in the mentions for it. But I want to go to MMA because I was not impressed so far with the candidates for Fight of the Year. Okay. For Fight of the Year, let's see. Fight of the Year, I have Poirier McGregor 2. Out of 5, I give that fight a 3. I thought it was entertaining. I think sometimes these fights, the endings are so like shocking or stand out so much that you forget like everything that happened before that. But that was a good fight. McGregor won the first round. Poirier starts putting it on the second, and then he gets a finish. I thought it was a good, entertaining 2 rounds. I think that was a good fight, but it's a 3 out of 5. And then I got Usman versus Burns. Burns hurts Usman in that fight. It's back and forth. Then Usman takes control, gets a big knockout with his jab to stop the fight. It was the TKO because I believe he finishes him on the ground. And then you got Oliveira Chandler, which is once again all 3 similar type of fights. One guy's winning early, almost gets hurts the guy, almost gets a stoppage, and then the guy comes back to finish his opponent. They're all kind of similar, but none of them we haven't had like the fight that just like, like competitive all 3 or 5 rounds. We haven't had that yet. I haven't seen that yet where I was like, that fight really stood out to me. These are the ones, and they're mostly like one side this way, and then the guy comes back and wins the fight. Knockouts of the year, right now I have Usman over Masvidal, I think is my knockout of the year. Sandhagen over Edgar is number 2, close number 2. Chandler Hooker's in there. Rose over Zhang. Actually, Rose over Zhang is my number 1 right now. I think that it wasn't like, it was just too smooth. I think something like that, like with the skill and how smooth it looks and effortless, I give more credit to that. Especially just because of the opponent she beat with it too. It's like Usman already had beat Masvidal. I think that him knocking him out, I don't think that was expected, but Rose knocking out Zhang was like, in that early of the fight, it was just stunning. That's my number 1 right now. In Fighter of the Year, I think Poirier's number 1. No. I have Usman number 1. Usman beat Burns. He beat Masvidal. Usman's on number 1. Poirier's number 2. Oliveira's number 3. And I think the Oliveira and Poirier, if they fight each other, they'll probably take the number 1 spot. And I think that Usman, if he beats Colby Covington again, he's gonna have a good claim too of being a Fighter of the Year. But I think it's gonna be hard for someone to sneak in. Maybe if Gane can beat, Derek Lewis or Gane, whoever wins that, and then if they can beat, what's his name, the champ of the world, man, I'm blanking right now. He's not anywhere on my list either. Nagano, if they could beat Nagano, I mean, how can you, how can we go over that? But the thing is, we tough for Nagano. Like, if he sleeps one of them, I don't think that puts him, in for Fight of the Year. I don't. I think that people are going to expect him to win that fight. and maybe people expect Usman to win that fight, but I just think that Colby Covington's like more proven than either one of those guys, especially because Derek Lewis was so easily beaten by Cormier, and just didn't look like he belonged at that level. I really think he's gonna have a hard time with Gane. I really think he's gonna have a hard time with Gane. I think Gane is really talented. I don't know if he has all that great power, or I think he's a little bit like, I think his shots are a little bit. He could he's throw real loose with his hands and legs, but I don't think he's sets up shots very well, like coming forward or has a head movement. Sometimes he's kind of just like a point fighter, I would say. And I think that that's gonna be tough against Ngannou because Ngannou can take you out with any punch. So he kind of have to fight, like walk the tightrope in that fight in a way, and kind of just have to school Ngannou. And Ngannou's getting better. I don't know if Ngannou gets schooled by anyone right now. He didn't look like it didn't look like Miocic can outbox Ngannou this time. It looked like Ngannou had upped his game. He really did. Let's see. Let's go to the Twitter format real quick. Okay. Let's see what's popping. Okay, not trying to sign Canelo to some sort of deal with leverage you have would be business malpractice. Business does not grow magically on their own. Money doesn't make itself. Criticizing Heyman for trying seems odd. And then he says, Bull Boxing says, I want Canelo to Plant fight, but I don't care the business behind it. Anyone creating an obstacle for that fight deserves criticism. Why would the fans care about business interests or promoter? Just want the fight. I see both sides of it, but I understand Canelo's a free agent, right? He's a network free agent. But Canelo's too big to be locked down to like a long-term deal. He just is. He is. He has earned the right to get a one-fight deal. And that's the leverage he has. And PBC and Plant need Canelo. He doesn't need them. I don't know if there's a confusion on that, if Canelo needs the PBC guys. He doesn't. Canelo can easily fight on his own, fight lesser opponents, and they would still pay him for it. He brings in views. He brings in subscribers. He even brings in some pay-per-views for them because some people order pay-per-views from DAZN. It makes no sense. But they do. Yeah, they don't need him. Canelo wants Plant because he has a title that he wants. Canelo considers him a legit, credible opponent. I think a lot of people do. But I don't think that Plant is some kind of, 50-50 matchup for him. He isn't. Right? I don't think he's bringing the star power that maybe he thinks he is. I know the PBC knows better than this, right? They know that Canelo's the star. He's the one selling the fight. But they know that they're bringing in an American champion, so that would bring the attention, from here for at least pay-per-views. To me, honestly, if the PBC thought they're going to get a 3-fight deal from Canelo, that's their naiveness. And I don't think that should stop the fight. Now, like I said, I don't know what's happening in negotiations. I don't think anyone really does besides like journalists and reporters. And I think everybody's talking crazy, but I'm not saying that's what's happening. I'm just saying that if that was to happen, I think it's pretty crazy to think that Canelo's going to sign a 3-fight deal with the PBC. Even if he says he wants Benavidez and Charlo next, why would he ever give up his leverage? What if say he signed a 3-fight deal and one of them lost a tune-up fight? Then he just loses out an opponent and he fights another opponent, and the PBC's not going to, what do you think the pay-per-view sale is going to sell for the guy that beat Benavidez? I don't think so. That's a very risky chance. Why would he do that? What if another opponent comes out that Top Rank has? Right? What if Berlanga, the hype train keeps building, and then that fight's ready to go? Why would he stay here? Right? Bivol, Gilberto Ramirez, all those guys. He doesn't want to give any leverage. I think that makes perfect sense. Like, how could we be critical of Canelo? And to me, like, PBC does deserve criticism if that's what they are counting on. Now, I don't think they are. I think they know better than that. I think that maybe they brought that up as an idea, and they should. Right? Their business, they should bring it up as an idea. But I think Plant would be very pissed if the PBC cost him a shot because they wanted to guarantee 2 other guys a shot. I think the PBC knows that this is a good pay-per-view for Plant, for them. There's money to be made. And I think they know that Canelo doesn't really need them. He doesn't really need Plant. Okay, here. Let's see here. Okay. Bud Crawford is so good and dominant. He's never been pushed close. Never had a fight where afterwards he thought the other guy won. Made solid world class guys, another solid world class guys. The other elite struggled with, like Diaz, Postal, Benavides, and look okay. The boxer world doesn't grade him correctly. And then Vince Cummings says, I think more than anything, fans are frustrated with the career path that at this point. I think gun to most legit boxing fans, it's just based purely on skill alone. He is no doubt top 5 in the world, arguably top 3. And then Stephen Edwards says, I buy that, Vince, but he can't be lower than top 3. Your eyes aren't lying to you. Skill wise, and then Vince Cummings says, skill wise, I'd be willing to argue he is still the best. That's what I'm saying. But we don't judge this on skill. Like, we don't judge fighting on skill. We don't judge fighting on what you look like hitting the bag, hitting the pads, or lesser opponents. Now, I agree that Terence Crawford is a great fighter. I think he has all the abilities to beat any man in the world in his weight class, including Errol Spence. But Errol Spence has a better resume. Now, is it because Errol Spence is on the right side of the street with all the opponents at 147? Yes. The business side of it, although I don't really, although it's interesting and I kind of stay away from judging that part because I don't know everything about it, right? I'm not in on those meetings. I'm not in as a journalist seeing all the talks, talking with people's sources and all that. But the business side of it is a part of it. And Crawford has the wrong business. He's in with the wrong side. He's in with Top Rank. Now, I'm sure they worked out some good deals for him. I'm sure he got paid good, especially for fighting the opponents that he's fought. But at one point, we have to say, no matter what, you have to just judge on what the resume is. And Errol Spence's resume is better than Terence Crawford right now. Now, Terence Crawford cleaned out 140. I agree with that. At 147, he hasn't really fought anyone. He's not going to fight anyone as long as he's with Top Rank. Once this deal's done, I believe he fights Errol Spence next year. I don't think that's too hard to put together because it's going to be done with Top Rank contract at October, the last fight. And once he's done with that, he'll go sign with the PBC or stay network free agent, whatever, like Canelo. And then he'll go and get the deal done with Errol Spence. Because I don't believe there's enough money with Top Rank and PBC for that fight to happen where two networks are going to split it and two promotions are going to split it. I don't believe it's there. But I think there's enough when they're on the same side for this fight to happen. And I think that's a fight. It's an amazing fight, like skills, boxing wise. Now, is it going to grab the attention of the media? Who knows? Is it bigger than Spence versus Pacquiao? No, it's not going to be bigger than Spence versus Pacquiao. Is it bigger than Porter versus Spence? I think it's right around there. I don't think that there's like these massive paydays for that fight because I don't think that fight's going to do all that well, like pay-per-view wise. I think it's going to do exactly what about Errol Spence does when he fights a credible opponent. I really do. So I think the fight's happening next year. I think everybody says, oh, it's not going to happen. And it did kind of lose a little luster. People don't really even talk about it anymore. But I think next year, after he gets out of his deal, he's going to make a deal with PBC. If it's one fight, whatever. But there'll be a rematch clause. I guarantee we're going to get that fight twice. Spence is more accomplished than Usyk. So Pacquiao, not to mention Pacquiao's age. More accomplished than Usyk. I think Usyk beat his best opponent he could have possibly had at cruiserweight. I don't think Errol Spence has beat his best opponent he could possibly had at 147. Because that'd be Spence. That'd be Terence Crawford. I think he's going to have a chance of Manny Pacquiao. Even with Pacquiao's age, right? Pacquiao just beat Keith Thurman. I mean, it was 2 years ago, but he beat last thing we saw from him. There's the thing I was thinking about. How do we grade wins, right? Because throughout history, there'd be some people you'd be surprised have wins over legends. And usually the legend's older or they're shot. And it's like, do you count that the same as beating them in their prime? We can't do that. So what do you do? Right? What do you do with those wins? I don't know. Like Tyson getting knocked out by what's his name? Danny Williams, right? Like, that's not. Does Danny Williams go in the Hall of Fame because he beat Tyson? Right? Is that considered like a Buster Douglas type win? No, I don't think so. So I don't know. I always think about this because people are gonna have some big wins and big names under their. They're gonna have some big wins under their in their resume. And I don't know if they're, not all of them are equal, I guess. Sugar Ray Leonard beating Roberto Duran is a lot different than, when Hearns beat Roberto Duran. And it's like we need a system where we could say, like, this was Roberto Duran, out of 10, this was a 10. And this was Roberto Duran, out of 10, he was a 6. But but saying that about Pacquiao is everything I've seen about him. He's still high level. So say when Mayweather beat Pacquiao, he was a 10. Let's just say he was a 10. He was still super effective. He would have beat every other man in boxing at that weight class at that time, and he didn't beat Mayweather. So Mayweather gets a 10 credit for him. Now, to me, right, Pacquiao lost to Horn, but really won. Beats Broner, beats Thurman, and Thurman fight was good. It was a good fight, but I thought he clearly won. The Broner fight was, one-sided. Is the Spence fight, what number is Pacquiao on that? Like, say if we're doing it out of 10, what is Pacquiao right now? Is he an 8? I can't see going lower than an 8. Even though we haven't seen him in 2 years, the last thing we've seen him, he still looked pretty damn good. It's going to be a thing where we have to judge it after we see it, which is not really fair to Spence, right? Because, we all agree it's a big fight. I know a lot of people are saying that Spence is guaranteed to win, but that's not even, to me, a negative on Pacquiao because, yes, Pacquiao's older, and Spence is has a claim to be one of the best in the world right now. So it's no shame to anyone if they get matched up with Spence and they say, Spence should be favored to win. I just don't know what number Pacquiao is right now. Out of 10, what is Pacquiao? He's an 8? 8 sounds about right, but then do you need to see it, right? Do you need to see the first round, how he's moving around, what his speed looks like, what his capabilities look like? It gets tough. It gets tricky at that point. We start talking about, people with wins. And it happens a lot in MMA, right? A lot of people have wins over BJ Penn that wasn't fighting BJ Penn when he was lightweight champ. It wasn't the same BJ Penn. So I don't think you get credit for that. A lot of people have wins over, Couture that wasn't Couture anymore. I would like to, I don't know about time for that, but to go down and break down what level a guy was when they fought someone and how much credit do we really get. This is really how how resumes should be built. Because Earl Spence beating Kell Brook was, to me, Kell Brook at a 10. That was the best Kell Brook that he's ever been. Terence Crawford beating Kell Brook was at Kell Brook at a 7. You know what I mean? Not equal. I think we can all agree on that. They're not equal. I think that's important to see when we talk about resumes, and sometimes names are getting thrown out and I'm like, well, that's not the same name. You know what I mean? That's not the same guy anymore. I wonder what level of out of 10 what Spence is getting to Pacquiao. Is he getting an 8? 7? If you get a 6, it's about like where Pacquiao is going to get knocked out in that fight because Spence is at a 10 right now. I don't know. I think I'll probably wrap it up there. It's 28 minutes. Just want to get on here. Make sure I'm still providing content to the Straight to Video podcast. Try a new angle where I think my face looks better on this. That's what it is. I'm telling you. Sometimes I watch this thing and I'm just like, my God, you have a fat face. What happened to you? That's what this thing turns into. It just turns into me looking at myself like, what the hell happened to you? Thanks for listening, guys. It's been Straight to Video podcast.